Hi, everybody. Douglas Weed here again for Closet Chat on this Sunday. Due to some computer technical difficulties, I was unable to do a live stream yesterday. So I postponed it till today, so at least that way I can still touch base with some of you. Um, like I said, uh, I've always enjoyed doing live streams, and I can basically have a one-on-one conversation with anyone who does want to check out this video and ask me questions. So I'm more than happy to do so. A couple things going on. First off, we've got a couple of conventions that are coming. We have my local city Stockton Con. Stockton Con is going to be on the second weekend of August, so this next weekend. Um, Stockton Con isn't really a gaming convention per se. It's more of a pop culture convention. So they have comic books, anime. There are board game dealers. Local stores come out and set up shops, and there is some limited board gaming. There's flea markets, things of that nature. So it's kind of a hodgepodge convention. But if you're in the local Stockton area, I would recommend giving it a try. It's not bad as conventions go. There are better, but it's something to do. Also, coming soon, you have at the end, or should I say, the beginning of September, so next month, from September 2nd to September the 5th, at the Santa Clara Marriott Hotel, you have PacificCon. PacificCon is a multi day international gaming expo, board gaming, card games, things of that nature. Which I am planning on attending to see what's going on there for PacificCon. I'm going to bring you some live video from there, but I'm looking forward to that. Again, that's on September 2nd through September the 5th, so Friday through Monday. PacificCon is one of the bigger conventions, especially in the Santa Clara, San Jose area. If you are interested in going to the convention, but you aren't from the local area, the Santa Clara Marriott Hotel is right around, or should I say, right down the highway from the San Jose airport. So it's very easy to fly in. It's right down the street from Great America Amusement Park. It's right down the street from the 49ers Levi Stadium. So there's all kinds of stuff around it. So you can have a nice family outing. But I am planning on attending PacificCon again on Labor Day weekend. So it should be a interesting time. So next, games that I've added to the closet. I've added one, which I would have brought it up last time, but I hadn't received it in the mail yet, which is Stop With. Stop With is a World War One airplane game. You have Allied air aces, German air aces, and you're doing aerial combat over the trenches of a World War One battlefield. There are clouds. You can make maneuvers. You can fire machine guns off on this game. Stop With this game in particular. This is the first edition that came out in 1978. There were a couple of supplement editions. The supplement editions were not produced by the same game company. They were self-published. So they do look a bit different. They have different boxes. The pieces look way different. They play pretty much the same, but the game kind of went underground, and then probably in the early 80s it disappeared. So it's a little harder of a find game, but it's really interestingly strange because especially it's on an octagonal board, hex based, so you have the little pieces flying around. I have seen games of this where people have actually gotten airplane models, cotton ball clouds where they put over the battlefields, so they actually kind of take it to that next level of 3D scales airplane combat. So then you have depth over the board on top of everything. There are dirigibles in this. It's a really odd game. I found this copy on eBay. You can find them every once in a while. They're a little harder to find, but if you do find a copy of it with all the pieces intact, I would highly recommend it because they are one, very rare, and two, it's a really interesting game. So you can, like I said, you can do aerial combat, you can land aerodromes, you can do reconnaissance missions, dirigible assaults, you can do all kinds of stuff in this. So it's a very nicely built game, which I would recommend taking a look at. But that's all I've added to the closet this week. So, as you may have guessed by the title of this particular chat, which is Shaken Not Stirred. So, Shaken Not Stirred is, of course, a James Bond reference. If you haven't seen James Bond, I'm sorry that whatever rock you've been living in is going to assault your senses in one assault, one massive thing. But yeah, go check out James Bond if you don't know who he is, which I don't know what to say to that. So, James Bond, they've made many movies. It came out of a book series from Ian Fleming in the 50s and 60s. It's still very popular today. Daniel Craig just released the last one, I think a year ago or so. But most people don't realize James Bond has been involved in gaming for a long time. I have the 007 Secret Agent board game, which I have released on the channel before. I'll have a link to it up here in the cards and in the description below when I finally publish this, and that way you can check that out, which is a Sean Connery era board game. But most people don't realize Avalon Hill had a supplement game company called Victory Games. Victory Games released a licensed James Bond RPG game from 1983 to 1987, and then they let the license expire. But you can find some of these RPG books which are award-winning for 1983. They won an Origins Award and the H.G. Wells Award for Gaming. They won a Strategic Gaming Award in 1983, and they're very well received by the gaming community. And modern times now, every so often someone will go back and take a look at one of them, which I think these games are very well built. So we have the James Bond 007 game. Victory Games put out this particular game, like I said, 1983. They made many, many supplements. You can go and deal with Smersh agents. They released, let's see, I have a couple of supplements. They released the Q manual, so that way you can get additional equipment. So you can go and write your own James Bond adventures. But they took pretty much everything that was in a film and loaded into the books. The exception to that, Kevin McCloy in the early 80s made a copyright claim on Ernest Blofeld and Spectre. So the evil organization is not in this material. But they did decide we need an evil organization, so they came up with a new one called Tarot, kind of like the cards out of Live and Let Die with the tarot cards. So they have Friedrich Scorpios and his evil tarot organization, which kind of replaces Spectre. But you can nowadays, you can kind of go back and just kind of relabel everything if you really want to. It won't hurt anything. But they made this nice evil organization, so that way the material still holds up. So they printed out a bunch of the supplements for the films, which I've got a couple of those. So you can go and play Dr. No if you really want to. You can go and run through Octopussy, and you can also go and run through You Only Live Twice. But there are multiple supplements. They made supplements for Goldfinger. They actually brought Goldfinger back in an additional supplement where he's in kind of like a mechanical machine body. So there's the Goldfinger 2 supplement. They brought a lot of the characters back. They have Man with the Golden Gun. They've got a whole bunch of them. You can do Live and Let Die. Um, so they have enough of the material there where you can actually go and dig into a movie if you want, or there's enough material where you can write your own adventures. They came out with the Thrilling Locations book. The Thrilling Locations book is nice because it goes through, especially if you want to stay at, say, like the MGM Grand or Oriental Hotel. They actually have blueprint maps for all the locations. They came out with um, background material. They released a very nicely full colored section for like Monaco, so you can go to some of those neat old hotels. But the James Bond RPG material is, I think, um, better than some of the stuff that's out today. A lot of people don't remember it because Victory Games is a supplemental of Avalon Hill. Avalon Hill got bought out by Hasbro. Hasbro pretty much shelved most of Avalon Hill and Victory Games materials, so it's just lost, and I doubt they're ever going to bring it back out. Um, Especially since the license lapsed in '87 on this, and not a lot of people want to go and deal with it. But like I said, the James Bond material is very well written, so you can kind of readjust this into anything else you need to. There are many other types of RPGs you can use, like there's the secret agent RPGs, things of that nature, where you can take some of the background material on this, like the Thrilling Locations. You can throw that stuff into just about anything you want. So it has a multi-use functionality to it. So you could plug it into another RPG game if you really, really want to. If you really want to, you can kind of like a D&D-esque. You can go into some of the Buffalo Games stuff where you can do spies and secret agents. So there's a lot of material you can use with it, and I think that Victory Games doesn't get the remembrance or credit that it's due on some of it because again, it's people just don't remember it. Um, uh, let's see here. Hey Jim. Okay, so let's see. Hello, sir. Greetings from your northern friends. Hi. Also, I don't know if you're aware, but YouTube is showing your city. Really? Nice. So, always nice to have northern friends. So back on the topic. So, James Bond, I think, is a well, very well material. What? Let me rephrase that. It's material that I think works very well, and it has a lot of leeway to it. So you can like write your own adventures. You can go and dig out old characters. The really nice thing about it is the base book actually has, you can run around with James Bond. You can run around with Q. You can run around with some of the other Bond girls. You can run around with just about anything you want. So you can actually go on missions with James Bond if you want. You can go do the PS2 evil James Bond game, GoldenEye, where if you really want to, you can go and kill James Bond. So you can actually play the bad guy. There's a whole book on villains. So you have the ability to do just about anything you want, which I think is a fantastic game structure. And you can actually go and readjust this stuff if you really want to. Like I mentioned last time, the wonderful gentleman at Historicon that took the Have Gun Will Travel board game, and they 3D miniatured the entire board game. So that way, if you end up in a town, you can go to the town. You can go to the Civil War fort. You can go to the Indian villages. I think this material right here has the ability to expand just like that one did. So you can take the James Bond stuff and go to another level. You can go and dig out the Buffalo Games, Flying Buffalo Games, Spies and Secret Agents material. You can go dig out Secret Agent. You can go dig out a lot of these spy genre games And with this material, you can write your own game, which would, in my opinion, be fantastic because you can do a lot of different angles with it. You can do a lot of different source material with it. And like I said, it's something that most people don't remember. So to them, it'll be fresh, it'll be new, it'll be exciting. So I think the James Bond RPG material is something that I would highly look for. Sometimes the books get a little expensive, especially the villains book. Some of those books go for like 40, $50 because they've been out of print for almost 30 years, almost pushing 40. So they're good with books and materials. Some of the later materials, they actually incorporated it, like the James Bond 007 RPG book and the Thrilling's Location. So if you did a later print book, they actually just merged them together. So you get a bigger book with a couple of different books of material in it. The Q manual, it's just a book of materials. So, and you can, and it actually gives you the options to actually how to write your own new equipment, how to write your own plot points. So the game is built so that way you can go and do just about anything you want to it. Another game that I think does deserve a little bit of mention, and I always get a little flack for this game because I like this game. It sold very poorly originally. So TSR put out a series of games, which it's kind of like the James Bond RPG material, but it's a little bit different. But the problem with this is when their license lapsed, they took all the remaining copies and destroyed them. So there's not a lot of copies left. But they did take the remains of a couple of editions that they burnt and took some pieces out of it that survived and created a excellence in gaming trophy. And if you haven't figured out what I'm talking about by now, that would be TSR's Indiana Jones, The Adventures of Indiana Jones game. This is a game that doesn't get brought up very often. People, for whatever reason, have really good memories of this game or hate this game. It sold very poorly, and it's hard to find copies now. You can find some of them online, but I mean, if you want one of the kits or the modules that came out in this, you're looking at 100, 150, $200. It just depends on where it is. But the editions came out with some really nice maps. They came out with some nice features. Some of the editions actually came up with little pewter figures, so you don't actually have to play with the cardboard cutout characters, which I think the cardboard cutouts were designed rather poorly. But for the modules, I mean, they weren't too bad. You could go run Raiders of the Lost Ark. You had the ability to do Temple of Doom. And then they came out with solo modules, just like James Bond did. James Bond came out with the For Your Majesty's Secret Service, which is a solo RPG module. So you can actually go onto an adventure in a choose your own adventure type format. So it's like, hey, do you want to go do this or do you want to do this? And then it directs you to what page in the manual or section of the manual to go to and tells you exactly what happens out of it. So you can have ever changing adventures. I think the solo adventure game is a RPG material that is just not looked, it's not received well for whatever reason. But I think for self gamers, like gamers, you're not at a convention, you're at home, your friends are working, stuff like that, you have a day off and you just want to have a good time, you need to dig out a solo adventure. Solo adventures, I think, don't get the credit they're due because they're solo adventures, so no one wants to play them because RPG games are designed so that way, hey, well, my friends come over, I have good times with this. It's like the same guy in Canada that actually has his 40-year D&D campaign that's been going. I mean, that game has been running for 40 years, and he just keeps making it fresh and new, and he keeps it that way. All of his friends, and he stays in contact with his friends, and his friends come over. That's what the beauty of an RPG game is. Solo kind of is a different genre to that, or a different monster to that, which I don't think people look friendly upon it, but I think that for what they are worth investing in because your friends don't always come over and you may want to play a nice adventure or something like that. They've been slowly converting some of these games into the ability to play on the computer. Like, for example, you can play Mansions of Madness. from Fantasy Flight Games. The first edition of that, you had to have a person that ran the game, and then you had the players. So you always had the person running everything, and that couldn't play things on his own for all the mysteries because he knew where everything was. The second edition actually created an app so that way you can stand alone. It's you versus the app. So you can actually solo the game if you really want to. I think solo games are an untapped market because not everybody has someone around to play with. You have um, kids that are, uh, single children. They don't have their friends over. Um, it varies. So I think solo games are a market that's untapped, and they're not a new thing. Like I said, James Bond RPG came out in that in like 1984, 85. TSR came out with the Adventures of Indiana Jones solo games in like 1986. So a lot of those games were experimental, and like I said, they didn't get received very well. But for what they are, I think is a phenomenal thing like nowadays. So they're taking that same thing and going to that next level with the computer, or if you want to play a nice just a solo player game, something like that, like World of Warcraft on your PC or something like that. It's the more advanced version of the basic, the originals of these, which I think these don't, like I said, don't get the credit they're due. Um, let's see. No, but I've played a lot of Jones. Yeah, Indiana Jones. Like I said, there's a lot of supplements of this. Um, they did the first two movies, and they did a lot of additional supplements, which are kind of like their own weird standalone stories. You have some of those Kevin McCoy books from the early '90s, which are basically the same thing. They're standalone. Someone else wrote Indiana Jones stories, and I think that they're interesting in their own way, but they just don't get the credit that they're due. But like I said, these games, especially the Indiana Jones TSR games, like you said, you get people that like them, and then you get people that just for whatever reason still hate these games. I don't know why, because they didn't sell very well, and that wasn't the interest wasn't there. They're written really well, surprisingly, but I think the cardboard pieces were a turnoff on this game originally. So, they have a lot of they come with maps, they come with rule books, they come with the ability to expand however you need to, but for whatever reason they just get hate and flack. I don't know why. Compared to like I said, the Indiana Jones, or should I say the James Bond supplements, which are award winning. They're highly received. People will dig these out every once in a while at a convention. I mean, I've run these at a convention, and they're phenomenal. You get people that just have massive flashbacks of this game, and for whatever reason, nobody remembers it until somebody shows up with a copy of it for some random reason. But I don't think they get the credit that they're due. And I think James Bond is a very untapped market, especially in gaming. Don't get me wrong, you have some of the James Bond games that came out in the '60s and early '70s when the movies were highly popular. They came out with a Scene It game where it was trivia on the James Bond movies and things of that nature. I mean, that's all right, but it's not great. But like I said, the RPG books, you can dig in for a solo adventure or an adventure with your friends, and you can go on a mission with James Bond. You can go and fight the evil agents of Terret or Spectre if you rebrand it. You can go deal with clandestine Smersh agents. And there's a really nice RPG element to it. They're not heavy combat games because they're a spy game. So you can go and dig in. They feel just like what they're supposed to. That you get great theming. And like I said, for whatever reason, nobody remembers them. And it's kind of sad. So, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about this week. Is just bring up a lot of the RPG books that people just don't remember. I've had a good time with them, especially at conventions. I've gone and played Lord of the Rings RPG books. There are so many RPG books you can try. Uh, One that I highly recommend if you can find it is the Evil Dead series. Actually has an RPG book, not Evil Dead itself, but you can go play Army of Darkness, and it's written. The book is basically written by like Bruce Campbell's character Ash, so it has all the little pithy one-liners. It has all the funky talking to you in it, but it's a pretty decent system. Um, Unfortunately, each of the films was released by a different production company. So Army of Darkness is the only one that actually got an RPG book, which I think is a phenomenal book. Um, then you have Legend of the Five Rings, which there are several editions of that, which I think um, do a nice job. I've played White Wolf for years with like Vampire the Requiem. I know people that played Masquerade for years. I'm a personal fan of Hunter the Vigil, and uh, so a lot of those are picking up more momentum nowadays. But I think some of the other material that people just don't remember deserve a second look or a third look, or digging them out of your parents' attic and taking them to a convention and have a good time. So doesn't look like anybody has any questions this week. So as you may have seen, I put out a copy of Landslide, the Parker Brothers board game, this morning. There are some more games that I am planning on dropping out in the works, which I do plan. I have a release schedule till the 4th of December. Due to the spotty release schedule, I am releasing a special episode this Christmas, which happens to be on a Sunday. So there is a special Christmas episode coming. My normal off time is December, January, and February, and I am planning on going to DunderCon again, which is President's Day weekend, the third weekend of February. If you haven't gone to DunderCon before, it is a Dungeons and Dragons convention that's been going since the early 70s, but in modern times, it's not just Dungeons and Dragons, it's kind of a collage of everything. I've played board games there that were brought over by a couple of really nice guys from Israel. I've played board games that had to be translated out of German and Russian that weren't released here. I've played card games, board games that have just been out of print. I found some nice new games. They have a flea market. So if you haven't tried DunderCon before, I would recommend giving that a look. Saturday is generally the best day, so if you do want to make a day trip of it, especially if you're in the area, I would recommend going on a Saturday. That is the best day, for anything there. But I've been going to that convention since 2004, so it's a game convention that I would highly recommend. TSR's Conan the Barbarian was fun. I haven't played that one, Craig. Like I said, there's 1,000 RPGs out there. I haven't played Conan. I've heard of it, but I've yet to find any of the books for it, and I don't currently know anyone that has them. So it's something I can look into. I always enjoy recommendations for new RPG books and things of that nature. TSR, I think, like I said, is always a very underrated company. They made The Hunt for Red October. They made Line in the Sand, the Desert Storm board game. They made Red Storm Rising, all the Tom Clancy books into board games. TSR, I don't think gets the credit they deserve, and a lot of people just don't remember their materials. But they made some fantastic board games, and they made fantastic RPGs, which I'm always interested in giving a new one a try. So yeah, I'll take a look at Conan and see if I can get a game of that rolling sometime. That'd be kind of nice. I am planning on trying to do some RPG stuff in the future. A lot of it is I don't have enough camera equipment currently for some of that, and I'm trying to get a lot more of my gaming group, more people together, so that way I can have a bigger game. You may have seen the Dust game I did with my buddy Steven Russell about a month ago. That is I have some more stuff in the works where I'm trying to do some more live playthroughs. I've got a couple of special rule editions of a couple of games that are coming. So I'm going to release the game itself, and then I've got some stuff where I have some tweaked homebrewed rules, which I think are fantastic for some really odd games. You'd be surprised on some of them that have homebrews. Um, there are a few supplemental books that I'm going to be releasing either in links on here, or I'll be going over them like I do my normal reviews. But there's some supplemental books that were created by either other game companies, fans that I think add to board gaming. Surprisingly, one of them is Risk. Risk has a supplement which I think most people would find very interesting, especially with all of the attack helicopters that are in it. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And doesn't look like I have any other questions. So I generally run about 30 minutes for these, unless anyone has any questions or anything they would like to talk about. But I don't have much else for this particular live stream. Again, no questions. Jim, Craig, I appreciate you coming on to the channel and talking with me. I always enjoy the input. And I am looking forward to, like I said, releasing a few things coming soon. I am looking forward to being able to bring this to you guys. Stop With is something I've wanted to pick up and play for a while. I've got a few of the Avalon Hill games coming soon, including a request for Bismarck Second Edition, which you know who you are, you know who requested it, and it is coming. So I have that coming. I'm planning on doing a few requests coming in September, and then the beginning of this next season, which starts in March, I'm going to be doing a massive amount of requests. So that way I have enough time to get some of them put together, because I've got some Avalon Hill stuff on there. I have an Axis and Allies request. So there is some big box game stuff coming, but I just need a little bit of time to put that stuff together. So if you have a request, it is coming. It will happen. Sometimes it takes me time because I don't have the game itself, but I do generally try to take care of requests above anything else first. So doesn't look like I have anything else, so we're going to call it here at looks like about 33 minutes. And thanks for watching my live stream, and as always, everybody, have a great gaming day.